Pac-Man Special Color Edition for the Game Boy Color. To call this a mere colorized version of the Game Boy iteration of the same game would be accurate. Let's be honest here, Namco figured people would want to play their Pac titles on the go, and in color, so they shot this out in 1999. And truth be told, Pac-Man on the Game Boy Color is pretty much the same game that it was on the Game Boy Plain. It's pretty much the original arcade Pac-Man, with fewer dots to eat up, that can be played in a default scrolling mode where all the graphics are full size and resemble those of the arcade game, but you can only see a partial bit of the screen. Likewise, you can also play the game in a full screen mode, which reduces the maze so that it fits a Game Boy screen. I've already touched on the original Game Boy version of Pac-Man back in 2012, and since this is pretty much the same game as that, only with color, I'll keep my thoughts relatively brief here. Suffice it to say that original monochrome version of Pac-Man was a perfectly acceptable offering on the handheld, retaining the graphics and gameplay mechanics of the arcade original, with the only drawback being that it was in monochrome and thus it was difficult to distinguish the four ghosts, although the patterns are mostly similar to the arcade original. I assumed that the removal of dots from the two passages was done as a means of easing up the challenge, but apparently that wasn't the case because here it is on the Game Boy Color, and those passages are still empty. Go figure, maybe they couldn't have more dots or anything, I don't know. The added color does enhance the game tremendously, especially in regards to the ghosts, because it's hard telling the ghosts apart on a monochrome screen, and this remedies that a bit, so you know which ghosts are what. The added color does give the game an almost NES feel to the visuals, if nothing else. Now obviously playing this on an old monochrome Game Boy or Super Game Boy, possible because of backwards compatibility, the game is still monochrome, except now it's a black background instead of white. Still, that's not bad. Sound-wise it's almost similar to the old Game Boy version, which is a fairly approximate recreation of the classic arcade sounds to mixed results. It's alright for what it is. Now, in addition to a color version of Pac-Man, you also get, as a bonus, or so they claim, the puzzle game known as Pac-Attack. Pac-Attack, for those who've never played it, is your usual cookie-cutter puzzler where you have blocks in a well and you have to clear away the lines of blocks. Some falling blocks also include ghosts, which can only be cleared away by Pac-Man whenever he can be bothered to show up every so often. There's two different modes of play, normal mode and puzzle mode. Normal mode's your usual marathon mode where you keep playing until the well tops out. And puzzle mode is where you have to clear the board of ghosts with the limited number of Pac-Man at your disposal. Success will move you to the next round as well as giving you a password to resume play at a later time. Failure allows you to try again or do something else, your choice. Pac-Attack's a fairly basic puzzler, and the implementation of Pac-Man eating ghosts to make room for blocks to form lines to clear does add something to the proceedings that makes it something of a unique feature. Obviously the visuals are considerably downscaled from the original versions, but everything still looks about the same as they did in those versions, just in much lower resolution. Unlike Pac-Man, Pac-Attack actually does have some semblance of background music, and in regards to this Game Boy Color iteration, it sounds just about adequate. It's a respectable recreation of the tunes that I've heard in all the other versions of the game I've played. Sound effects are, well, I've heard better. Let's just keep it at that. Pac-Man Special Color Edition is the name of the overall package for Game Boy Color, and while there might be little incentive to get this version if you're already in possession of the original Game Boy version, since it's the exact same game, only this one's in color, and let's be honest, the Game Boy Advance has its own version of Pac-Man in the form of the Pac-Man collection, so this edition would be frivolous at best outside of adding it to a collection or something. But then you also have Pac-Attack, which is something different, and not too bad a puzzle game if you're into that sort of thing. You know, on its own merits, Pac-Man is a worthwhile addition to your Game Boy Color library. And even if you have the older version, maybe consider checking this one out. It might be the same old Pac-Man on Game Boy, you can never go wrong with more Pac-Man. But hey, Pac-Attack's kind of fun too, I guess. But yeah, overall, this is not that bad of a deal. Not bad at all.